For over 4 decades, there's been this one policy that's cost over $1 trillion, shaped millions of lives, and really the world as we know it. I'm talking about the war on drugs. So today, we're going to dig into what it promised, what it actually delivered, and why, according to our source material, so many now see it as one of the biggest systemic failures of our time. First things first, let's just talk about the money. Over $1 trillion. That's a number that's, well, it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. It's more than the entire Apollo space program that put a man on the moon, even adjusted for inflation. But, with an investment that huge, the real question isn't just about the cost, it's about what we got in return. So, let's go back to the beginning. What was this policy even supposed to do? We're going to look at those original promises and then stack them right up against the reality of what actually happened. Okay, so it all kicks off in 1971. President Nixon stands up and declares drug abuse public enemy number one. And the goals? They were super clear, very compelling. 1, wipe out the drug supply. 2, lock up the traffickers. And 3, the big one, create a drug-free world. I mean, on paper, who wouldn't get behind that? But you fast forward 4 decades, and the verdict is blunt. The policy didn't just fall short. It's described as a complete systemic failure. So how on earth did we get from that simple, powerful promise to this catastrophic outcome? Well, let's unpack the evidence. To really get why it failed, we have to look at the central paradox of prohibition itself. It turns out there are these fundamental economic forces at play that may have doomed this whole war from the very beginning. The first big idea is something called the balloon effect. It's a really simple but powerful way to think about it. If you squeeze a balloon in one spot, the air doesn't just vanish, right? Nope, it just bulges out somewhere else. Well, the exact same principle applies to the drug trade. As long as people still want to buy, cracking down on the supply in one area only guarantees it's going to pop up in another. And you can see that cycle right here. First, authorities come in and boom, they destroy drug supplies in one spot. Step 2, that makes the drugs that are left way more scarce, so prices go through the roof. But, and this is the absolute key, the demand from users doesn't go away. So that constant demand combined with those sky-high prices creates this massive financial incentive for new suppliers to just jump right into the market. You're just stuck in this endless and frankly often worsening cycle. But the balloon effect, that's only half the problem. This leads us to the second paradox, the potency problem. And this quote just nails it. Prohibition doesn't just fail to get rid of drugs, it actually weaponizes them. See, when you make something illegal and hard to smuggle, you create a huge incentive to make it smaller, more concentrated, and, well, a lot more dangerous. We've seen this play out over and over again throughout history. During alcohol prohibition, right, bulky barrels of beer gave way to easily hidden flasks of hard liquor. It's the same exact logic that drives the modern drug trade. You take bulky coca leaves, refine them into compact cocaine. You take the opium poppy, process it into heroin, and now into the incredibly potent synthetic fentanyl. Each step makes the product easier to hide and smuggle, and a whole lot harder to dose safely. And the consequences of that are just deadly. Today's fentanyl, which is a direct product of this push for potency, is 50 times stronger than heroin. 50 times! We're talking about a substance where just a few grains, like salt on a pretzel, can be a lethal dose. This isn't some random accident. It's a direct, even if unintended, consequence of the policy itself. Okay, so we've got these economic paradoxes that are basically hardwired for failure. But what does that failure actually look like in the real world? For real people? Well, the human cost, as we're about to see, has been absolutely devastating. 164,000. Just let that number sink in. That's not a statistic from some conventional war. That's the number of people murdered in Mexico's drug wars in just 7 years. The argument here is that when you criminalize a multi-billion-dollar industry, you don't make it disappear. You just hand over control to violent cartels who settle their business disputes with bullets, not lawsuits. And that violence? It doesn't stop at the border. Researchers estimate that the drug war has directly fueled a massive spike in the U.S. homicide rate, somewhere between 25 and a jaw-dropping 75%. This isn't just someone else's problem. It's a conflict with staggering consequences right here at home. And beyond the violence, there's the cost to liberty. I mean, look at this. The United States has just 5% of the world's population, but a shocking 25% of the world's prisoners. A quarter. How is that even possible? Well, a huge driver of this mass incarceration is the unbelievable number of arrests for nonviolent drug offenses. And to see how this plays out on the ground, just think about this scenario. You've got Jake, who is white, and Marcus, who is black. The data shows they use drugs at the exact same rate, and yet Marcus is 10 times more likely to be arrested and end up in prison for it. The numbers show it's a system that can deliver starkly different kinds of justice, depending on your race. So, if the policy of prohibition has led to all of this, is there another way? The focus now shifts to a different path, one that replaces punishment with pragmatism. Back in the 1980s, Switzerland was in the middle of a full-blown heroin apocalypse. I mean, Zurich's Needle Park was the largest open-air drug market in all of Europe. Street crime was out of control, HIV was spreading like wildfire from shared needles, and overdose deaths were just climbing and climbing. Their war on drugs was an absolute, undeniable catastrophe. So they tried something radical. Instead of cracking down even harder, they opened supervised centers that provided medical-grade heroin and health services. And the results were stunning. Just look at this. Drug-related crime? It collapsed. Overdose deaths were cut in half. New HIV infections dropped to practically zero. And, get this, 2/3 of the people in the program found steady jobs. They decided to treat a public health crisis like a health crisis, not a crime wave. And all of this leaves us with the final, crucial question. After decades of evidence, it seems the war on drugs has really become a war on people, fueling violence, mass incarceration, and death, all without actually making a dent in drug use. So if this war has failed, what comes next? The evidence we've looked at suggests the answer isn't to fight harder, but to fight smarter, by completely rethinking our entire approach from the ground up.